Elderbrook with Inner Light. You're listening to The Takeover on Life FM with Maz for this Wednesday night. And being a Wednesday, it is time to do this.
Life FM.
Wellness Wednesdays on The Takeover.
Whoops, wrong one. Okay, that went a little bit too far. Okay, let's try that again. Kelli K from Kelli K Naturopath is here in the studio regardless. Kelli, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Maz.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Live radio. So glad to have you here tonight. We're going to pretend that didn't happen. But we are talking about something very important, and that is sleep for tonight's Wellness Wednesday. So would you like to tell us why sleep is so important?
Absolutely. I think sleep's one of those really things that we really underestimate. But sleep is so important. While we're sleeping, our body is, working quite hard, really. It's doing detoxification. There's a lot of hormone production, tissue repair, and also a lot of psychological processing as well. So it's super important. And we're learning more and more about the impacts of not getting enough sleep or having really poor quality sleep.
Yeah.
I think with our modern lifestyle, it's becoming quite an issue for a lot of people.
To get enough sleep, but to also get quality sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard earlier tonight on the 9 News simulcast that there's been a recent study done by Flinders Uni, and they've come out with this research that if you suffer with sleep apnea, it can actually increase your blood pressure. So there can be that link between the two. So they're saying that sleep quality is actually really important for your heart and for your overall health, which is basically what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually quite a bit of mounting research, actually, that shows that when we're not getting enough sleep or poor sleep, it really impacts our metabolic health. So it impacts the way our blood sugar works. It impacts, it's associated with obesity and then a whole lot of mental health conditions as well. And it drives inflammation in the body. And so many of the conditions that we're seeing in the West, in Australia, are driven by inflammation.
Yeah.
So it's really one of those foundational things that we should be paying attention to in our life and with our health.
Definitely. I think that I speak for most young people when I say that I don't get enough sleep, or if I do, it's not great quality sleep. And then what I tend to do is sleep in to overcompensate. And then I find that I don't really feel like I've had a good sleep. So if I go to bed really late, so, after midnight, 1, 2, later in the morning, I'm finding that I'm then having to sleep later the next day, which then, on weekends obviously is not so bad. But during the week, you've got work or other appointments and things, it's hard to do that. So I do think that I struggle to get good quality sleep, particularly during those times when I think, I'll just overcompensate by sleeping in an extra few hours, and it doesn't really work.
No, I think it can really upset your rhythm. And we have what's called the circadian rhythm, which people have probably heard of. It's like your inbuilt body clock, basically, that helps you know when it's daytime and nighttime. And what can happen is that can really become out of rhythm, out of sync. And so we end up staying up later and later and getting up later and later, and then everything's out of whack. And it's so easy to do because we have so many distractions, so many things we could be doing. So many mindless activities, so
social media.
Absolutely. It's
I think
not
that's
that hard to get carried away and realise that all of a sudden it's midnight.
And that is a big issue for me, is going down the rabbit hole or the black hole of Instagram or Facebook and just starting to scroll. And it's designed to you're meant to do, like, it's designed that way so that you do that, so that you just keep scrolling and eventually like you say, it's midnight or it's 1 a.m. and you're like, oh my goodness, I should be asleep. When we come back out of this song, I want to talk a little bit about some of the tips that you have for getting better good quality sleep as well. So this is a really important topic. As we've heard, it's important for not just physical well-being, but also mental well-being as well. So don't go anywhere. You're here for Wellness Wednesdays on The Takeover with Kelli K, Naturopath on Life FM. Hello, K, Ella here. Kenny Dope, Deep Down. You're listening to The Takeover on Life FM, and we are in the middle of this.
Wellness Wednesdays on The Takeover. Brought to you by station sponsor, Kelli K Naturopath. Book your free discovery call today to uncover better health and quality of life.
Kelli K Naturopath in the studio with us. Kelli, welcome back.
Hello.
So good to have you here. Tonight we are looking at sleep and the importance of sleep. And it's a big topic. It's a bit of I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years, people, particularly young people, are starting to become more aware of the importance of sleep, or it's just becoming more known in general, just how important it is for our health and well-being. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are becoming more attuned to what's going on in their mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
And sleep is a big part of that.
Yeah. I would agree as well. Not that I have the health qualifications, but I definitely can say from my own experience that sleep does help in just a whole range of different things. I have type 1 diabetes, and when I find that I've gotten very little sleep, my sugar levels are so crazy.
Yeah.
And I've actually done the breakfast shift here for Adelaide's Good Taste Breakfast a couple of times, filling in for Beck a couple of years ago, and I messaged her because she's also a type 1, and I said, oh my goodness, my sugar levels are just crazy. And she said, yes, it's your body not being used to the sleep schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just like, wow. So sleep is very important. Even if you don't have a chronic illness, it's important anyway. So we were talking about how important it is to get good quality sleep as well as a good amount. What are your tips, Kelli, for those who struggle with that?
Yeah, I think the first thing and my number one thing is to really try and avoid screens, computer, laptop, phone, iPad. The blue light from these devices, they hit the back of your retina, or the light interacts with your eyes, and that sends a signal to your brain that basically, as far as your brain's concerned, you could be on your computer at 10 p.m. at night, but as far as your brain's concerned, it could be 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So, and that reason that it does that is that light really interferes with that melatonin production. So you might have heard of the hormone melatonin, and that is considered to be a key chemical that's responsible for helping us to fall asleep, and then giving us a good, restful quality sleep as well. So we want to do everything we can to, produce a good amount of melatonin and to not let that become blocked. So turning on if you absolutely have to be on screens, like using blue light blocking glasses or turning on your night filter, most devices have them now, is a really good way. But yeah, avoiding them for at least an hour or two before bed.
Okay.
Would be my number one tip.
Yeah.
And then when you get up in the morning, to try and get as much natural light as possible, because getting that natural light early on in the day helps signal to your brain and helps regulate that day-night cycle.
Yep. So it's helping your brain realize, okay, it's morning now, and then the clock is kind of starting from the start again, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the other tip I would have, going back to something you said before about having a good routine, trying to go to bed roughly the same time each night, trying to wake up roughly the same time each morning, and having a good routine leading up to bed as well, because it helps you wind down, for one thing, and it helps train your body that this is what we do. It helps signal to your brain that, it's time to relax and go to sleep soon. So incorporating some sort of relaxation activity into that time, maybe having a nice herbal tea, or using some essential oils. I know you love your essential oils.
I do.
So something like lavender is fantastic. And then hot showers, baths, those types of things, really, really important. And no stimulants too late in the day as well. So no coffee, not too much sugar later in the day, because that can really interfere as well.
What would you say is late in the day when it comes to coffee? This is my burning question.
So for most people, I'd say probably after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3-4 o'clock. If you're someone who really struggles with getting a good night's sleep, or really has an issue with insomnia, I would say much earlier than that. So even by lunchtime, so 12 o'clock I would say.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And of course, if you're doing all those things and doing all the right things and you're still having trouble with sleep, then it would be a good idea to talk to someone about, what might be causing those issues.
Yeah,
is there anxiety? Is there pain? Is there some sort of hormonal issue? A lot of women, you might find that in certain times of your cycle, your sleep changes. And nutrient deficiencies as well, things like magnesium, vitamin D, protein. If you're deficient in any of those nutrients, they can have an impact on the quality of your sleep as well. So
yeah, wow. Yeah. So plenty of different variables and factors, and I love that practical advice there, staying off screens for at least an hour or two before bed, which I'm assuming includes your laptop or your iPad if you're wanting to watch some Netflix or something, so stay away from that as well.
Yes, so get a good old-fashioned book out or something, listen to some music,
Okay.
Do those types of activities.
What about TV?
Look, I would avoid it.
Yeah, it's still a screen.
It's still screen. And, some people say, but that's how I wind down. I was like, yeah, but you're still interfering with that melatonin production. And it's still, I suppose it does depend on what you're watching, but it still can be quite stimulating to your mind as well.
Yeah. Kelli, can I ask, can we go to another song and come back? Because I've actually got a couple more questions that
absolutely.
I only just thought of now, particularly around staying asleep, because I think there's a lot of people who can fall asleep okay, but they don't know how to stay asleep. They wake up multiple times throughout the night, whether to go to the toilet or they just wake up and then struggle to get back to sleep. I want to talk about that specifically after Matt Lucas. This is Hold On. You're listening to Wellness Wednesdays on The Takeover with Kelli K, Naturopath, and Maz on Life FM. Matt Lucas, hold on. You're listening to The Takeover on Life FM, and we are in the studio with Kelli K, Naturopath, for Wellness Wednesdays. Kelli, thank you so much for sticking around a little bit longer, because I've got a few questions for you, and one of them has just come through on 0413 90 1079 asking, what is it about the blue light filter in a blue light glasses or whatever it is? What is it that actually gets rid of the blue light? How does that work?
Okay, well, the exact technology I won't be able to explain to you.
Yep.
But they put a filter on to help change some of that light or to change the way that your eye or your brain perceives it. So it's a different type of light, or it blocks out that particular type of light.
Yep.
Because that light kind of sends a signal to your brain that it's sort of more like daylight, more like that. Yeah.
So it's waking you up essentially, or it's keeping you awake, stimulating.
Well, it's more that instead of those natural messages to the brain that it's getting dark now, and that we're moving towards that sleep stage.
Yep.
It's
interfering.
It's interfering with that basically.
Okay. So when you use a blue light pair of glasses or your blue light filter, that's what is being stopped, I guess. Essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
It's just removing one possible variable that might interfere with that melatonin production and that regulation of your circadian rhythm.
And you were saying that melatonin is something that we get from natural light. Is that where it comes from?
Yeah, well, that's what stimulates the brain to sort of the natural light stimulates your brain to know that it's daytime. So your melatonin levels will be lower during the day, and they will slowly start to increase in the evening and get higher as you go to sleep and throughout the night, and then they will drop again in the morning.
Interesting. Okay. Yep. All right, my next question is, for those who can get to sleep, because we're talking about different ways to, get to sleep more easily. What about those who struggle to stay asleep? What would your advice be for them if they're waking up at least once, maybe multiple times throughout the night?
Yeah. So some practical advice that you can do straight away is try and find something that you find relaxing. So perhaps it might be deep breathing exercise. Perhaps it might be listening to some very relaxing, calming music. Something that will help sort of take, wind down your mind. And
before bed, yep.
Yeah, so you can do this before bed, but you can also do it if you wake up in the night and can't get back to sleep. So I'd get up, I'd go to the toilet or do whatever, and then do some of those deep breathing exercises, some stretching, or listen to some quiet music. You can even do this sort of just sitting up in the dark in the lounge room.
Yep.
Just for 20 minutes or so, and then go back to bed rather than just laying in bed that whole time.
Yeah, yep.
But probably to go more in depth is you really have to understand what's causing that. So this is where getting an assessment would really come in handy, because there's a lot of different reasons why someone might wake up and not be able to fall back to sleep.
Yeah.
So it could be an issue with like blood sugar regulation, and they might be having like a sugar dip and then, you know, waking up and then not being able to get back to sleep. Or it could be anxiety or like an overactive mind where they're always in that constant stress response. Or it could be to do with, you know, vitamin D deficiencies or magnesium deficiencies, those types of things.
Okay.
So understanding a little bit more about what might be causing that can help determine what sort of things would help that person.
Wow. So doing some of that background work with either a naturopath or a GP or someone who can assist in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some other things that you can do. So there's some really lovely herbs, things like passion flower, lemon balm, ziziphus. They're probably some of my favourite sleep herbs.
Yep.
And, you know, things like magnesium and glycine can be really useful as well, just to help improve that quality of sleep.
Yep.
And making sure also that you're getting enough protein throughout the day.
Okay.
And having some protein in the evening as well, because that forms the building blocks of some of those chemicals, things like melatonin and other neurotransmitters that help with that sleep quality.
I've never heard that
relaxation.
Before.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So you got to remember that every tissue, every cell, every hormone, every chemical in our body is made from the molecules that come from the food that we eat. So that is information to our body. So if we don't give it what it needs, then it won't have what it needs.
The information.
It won't have the information to do what it needs to do and what it's designed to do.
Isn't that incredible? And I've never heard of it like that, you know, we are feeding our body what it needs to be able to function. And it's so simple, but I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have those building blocks, then you know, you're not going to get very far. So, I think those are my tips.
Yeah, fantastic. So many great tips and some questions coming through. Thank you guys so much. Also, if you've got a question for Kelli, don't be afraid to send through a text on 04 13 90 1079. We would love to hear from you. That is all we've got time for tonight for Wellness Wednesdays. But Kelli K from Kelli K Naturopath, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.